it's Christmas! It's Christmas time! All right, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and you'll be entered to win one of the prizes, and I will be announcing the winners very soon. So make sure that if you haven't liked and commented every single video up to now, go back and do that so that you can make sure that you are entered to win. Right, Rocky? Right?
I'm going to stand the same way Jen is. Casey's not going to stand the same way you are. And again, these are three of the top pros in bikini. So we talk about different structures, and they all do well in the sport. But you're going to pose a lot different than Casey is and different than Camille is.
We're all going to have the same pose, which will look different.
Yeah, so what would you, yeah. But
she's incredible.
Well, no, but why would you angle it different? I mean, how would you angle to show your physique? Yeah, come across in the front. Well, you train athletes, so you'll know. See, and one of the things that both Casey and Jen do, though, is if you notice, I see a lot of women, and I think sometimes, too, it's because of having kids, is their lower stomach, they tend to push it out forward, where you really want to tuck it under, because you want it to push back so that you're showing that shape of the glute there. You want to see that roundness, okay? And I would think you're going to stand, do you stand more to the side or more to the front?
I stand more to the side.
Yeah, I would say, I would think you would stand more to the side. And Casey, you stand more to the front. Because Casey wants to make herself look as big as she can. Camille wants to hide some of how big she is.
Yeah.
You could just give it to Casey. Casey would take it.
You can have it. But wait, you also have to understand.
Please can all give it to me, okay?
It's all about the illusion on stage. It's all about the art of posing. So, if you're looking up to Camille and you're like, I'm going to do it exactly like Camille does it, but if you don't have the shoulders to display it, you might look stringy. Versus, the other front pose, like someone asked about the other front pose, this front pose, you have to be very careful in this front pose, because if you are quad dominant, your quads are going to blow out, and your bottom half is going to look larger than your top half, and then you're throwing off balance. So it's really important to know your angles, number one, know proportions, but also work with someone who is aware of these proportions and angles that can better guide you, so that when you do get on stage, you look like you know what you're doing, you have the best position possible, and then also you're not doing the things that judges don't like. We've all done it. We've all been there.
I think one thing that I think people focus so much on is, where should the shoulder be? Where should the hand be? Where should the foot be? and they're focusing on all these little details, what should I do with my quads? And I always like to tell people, think of what are you creating? First start with that, right? What's your purpose? Whatever, the way that you create that, your hand, your shoulder, your foot, your hip, those are the byproducts of that. So that means everyone has a different body. Your ultimate goal in both bikini and figure is this hourglass shape. How can you make that as crazy as possible?
While looking relaxed.
Right.
Yes, that's the other thing. Yes, you have to look like you're not posing at all.
Right. I mean, you want to create.
So I need to twist a lot.
Yeah, no,
I'm very straight up and down, so I've got to really open up top and really kind of keep everything balanced.
As much of the contrast as possible. Contrast, of course, relax. But same thing when you're doing the back pose, when you pull your elbows back. It's not about that they don't want your elbows back. It's that you're now narrowing your shoulders. When you stick your elbows out, it's not don't stick your elbows out. It's what's going on here? You're creating an opposite hourglass. You're going here and here rather than here and here. You know what I mean? So it's not oh my God, I'm not supposed to do this, and oh my God, I'm not supposed to do that. Oh, I'm supposed to do this. It's think of your purpose. That's where you start. I'm creating an hourglass. What do I need to do with my body to make that come to fruition?
So we want to do the other pose?
Yes. Let's do a 180 thing. Do you want, real quick though, I have to tell you this, when I went overseas, I had people coming up to me with their phones and saying, would you say that 180 to the back? And I was oh my God, I'm serious. Because everybody streams everything, and it was oh my God, I was they said, yeah, would you just say this in my phone for me? Okay, down, do a 180. Let's face the back. Okay, now again, look at like shoulders, rounded glutes, straight up. Okay? Same thing here. She's given that nice hourglass. Okay? Now you can tell me this. When do you, I love you, Wendy, you look great, you're on your toes. Real quick, when do you, like, some people ask me all the time about bending knees and not bending knees.
It depends, I guess, on everybody's physique.
Because I really don't know what to tell athletes. One looks good and,
Some hamstrings get activated by it and some don't.
okay.
Usually if you're like seen on the harder side, I know that like for me, like Camille, you probably do the same thing. I have what I call
Oh yeah,
soft.
yeah, you get too hard, yeah.
I have soft knees, meaning you don't lock your knees out, but you also don't bend them because I have to find that sweet spot where you're tilting the hips just enough to activate the glutes and the hamstrings, but not over activating them where all of a sudden you just see everything.
Right.
But a lot of girls, I see a lot of top pros even doing it, so they bend their knees so much where it almost looks like they're about to sit down.
That's what, yes.
And then it looks like it looks awkward.
Well, and it throws off your whole symmetry. It really does.
It's like, what's your purpose, right? So whatever is closest to the judges will look bigger, and whatever is further away will look smaller. So you want your waist to look as small as possible. The way to do that is to pull it away from the judges. But the art is if you can slightly bend your knees to give you a little bit more of a tilt, because it does help you with a tilt with your pelvis. But not let anyone know you're bending them. Like the art of a slight bend, but like soft. No one knows. Like you don't want anyone to go, oh wow, she's bending her knees. They should look straight, but you're like, you have your little secret.
Well, also you can remember the judges sit below the stage. So like if you just have soft knees, you still look like you're standing straight up. The minute you have any kind of bend, you look like you're like